Hello, everybody, and welcome into another season preview show on the Hockey Writers YouTube channel. We're up to the Detroit Red Wings, and I've got Red Wings writer Jordan Orth here. Also covers the Penguins, if you've seen him on a previous preview, but he is also a Red Wings writer too. So, Jordan, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Well, the Red Wings, I had a really good season last year. They almost, by the thinnest of margins, missed the playoffs on the last day and were tied with the Washington Capitals, but didn't make the playoffs because of regulation wins but whatever. They were almost there. So we'll see if they can actually break through this season. Of course, have a really good team still and added to it forward wise. Well, let's just jump right into the Red Wings here and start talking about their forward group, which only added one guy. It was Vladimir Tarasenko, which is actually a pretty big addition. So let's start with him. What do you think Tarasenko brings to this group? Of course, the Stanley Cup winner with the Florida Panthers, now a two-time Stanley Cup winner from the Blues too. I had a secondary role with the Panthers, but he's probably going to have a bit of more of a role with the Red Wings. What do you think about him being added to
Yeah,
the?
I think he kind of overtakes that David Perron role and takes that to another level. I mean, like you said, he's got the experience in the playoffs. He brings the leadership that Perron had as well, but brings probably a little bit more of that offensive prowess to him. So he should be able to put him on that second line, say with Comfort and maybe Kane or DeBrincat, whatever they decide to do. It's going to be a fun top six to watch with someone like that in the fold now.
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at where he's going to play, I mean, it looks like he's going to be slotted in with Kane and Comfort on that second line because Larkin, Raymond, and DeBrincat had really good stretch together. And how Raymond broke out last season was insane, especially towards the end of the season when Larkin was out. He basically carried the team.
Right.
And you're looking at that group that top six looks pretty lethal at this point. And the bottom six has a couple question marks when you're looking at what's going to happen with Jonathan Berggren. I mean, could be traded. Could he, to me, I think he needs to be a top six guy, but it doesn't look like that's where he's going to play this season. And then they added Tyler Mott on the fourth line, which I love Mott. He's one of my favorite players, favorite bottom six guys. He was in Vancouver for a couple seasons, and I didn't like it that they traded him away. But he's bounced around since, but he's still a really good utility fourth line guy that can kill penalties, bring a bit of speed. What do you think about this forward group in general? Any question marks that you have going into this season?
Well, I kind of like you said with the whole. I mean, the bottom six isn't 100% set. You're obviously going to have a Christian Fischer who's coming back after becoming one of the guys that fans kind of gravitated towards because of his mentality and his attitude and just the way he handled himself around the organization and the fans itself. But I mean, like you said, Berggren's a big question mark because you don't know what's going to happen. He hasn't signed. I mean, he's still got the elephant in the room with Zator and Raymond not having their deals signed yet either. But that's a different situation. But you got someone like Berggren, like you said, should be a top six type of player with the skill set he has. But that you're kind of crowded at the top six, so he's gonna have to pick what he wants to do, I guess, because he's kind of got that leeway at this point as well.
Yeah, it seems like there's a couple guys like that. He's Nick Robertson in Toronto. Berggren seemed to be the same type of boat, although he hasn't come out and said he wants to be traded. He's a guy that could. I mean, I like Berggren. I think he could end up being a really good player I don't know, in Detroit though, because to where he is in the lineup, I don't know if he fits, like I've said. So it'll all depend on if he has to sign first. So we'll wait for that to happen.
Right.
I like Christian Fischer though too. I really like that they re-signed him because he was really good on that line with Rasmussen and Veleno. Was it Veleno? Yeah, I think it was.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Veleno, Rasmussen, and Fischer, and they're a really good line for a stretch there. So yeah, it's going to be fun. I think this forward group's a really fun group, and especially that top six. There's a lot of firepower there, and re-signing Patrick Kane, which wasn't a for sure thing, was great. Seems to and then he signed for more than just 1 year too. So
Right.
as long as his hip holds up, I think he's going to end up being a really big part of this team too, even though he is an older guy. Still doesn't look it though.
No, no. Looks like he's prime time, showtime every night he's out there, it seems like. So if we can get a
100%
full season out of him, it'd be a good thing to have.
for sure. All right, let's move to the defense, which has a bit of question marks. You're looking at Moritz Seider, of course, leads the way. He's the best defenseman by far. Looking at a guy like Simon Edmondson, looks like he's going to play a full season in the top four. But I got guys like Ben Sherratt, who had an okay season last year. You got Jeff Petrie, who did not have a good season. Then you got other guys that they added, Eric Gustafson. Justin Hull is, again, not good. He was in the press box for most of the season. What do you think about this defense going into this 2020?
Yeah, outside of the goaltending, I think it's definitely the biggest question mark heading into the season. Kind of again, I mean, it kind of was last year too. You didn't know what you're going to get with Sherratt having the bad start he had 2 years ago. He had a bounce back year compared to what he did the year before.
Mhm.
But like you said, Hall not he really enjoyed that suit and tie in the stands quite a bit last year. So if I mean you got Oli Mata, I think the biggest X factor for the defense in all reality, in my mind, is how Edmondson is able to play. If he can show what he did in Grand Rapids for time he was down there and translate it to the NHL, I think that's going to make a world of difference with that top four defensive unit.
Yeah, I mean, we've been clamoring to have Edmondson play a full time up in the league. I mean, been bouncing around going to Grand Rapids quite a bit. He should have been on the team last season. But I mean, but he wasn't there from the beginning. And they adding veterans again. I mean, Gustafson's an okay add. I mean, they lost Goss Despair, so he's basically his replacement. I mean, it could be on the power play, but yeah, it's a big question mark of how this group's going to be, and I think that's going to be the biggest reason why or why not they make the playoffs. Is this defense, and of course, we'll talk about now the goaltending. You're looking at last season, there was a three-headed monster. I don't know if we want to call it a monster because it wasn't very good, three-headed. Although Alex Lyon was good at the end of the season, but I think he was overworked. But then now this season, you've got another potential three-headed monster. They added Cam Talbot. Billy Husso, we're not sure about him. And then Alex Lyon's still here. And then they also added Jack Campbell to probably play in the AHL, most likely. So we're four goaltenders. What is this goaltending? I mean, it's a question mark, but what do you make of it right now?
I mean, I don't. Lyon, like you said, he was overworked last year. Bringing in Talbot, it's going to lessen the load that both of them are going to play. Talbot's coming in. He had a good year in LA. You got to look at the team LA had in front of him too. He had a more solid defensive unit in front of him. Is he going to be able to replicate any of those numbers he did last year? Maybe not, but if he can play, Reimer wasn't awful for the Wings last year. He had stretches where he definitely didn't look great. But if he can come in and take another step off of where Reimer was, to get, like I said, give that load a little bit less to Lyon,
Mhm.
I think it's going to help out. I don't. Husso's a question mark. It seems the last two seasons he comes in. Oh yeah, he's healthy, and then oh he's hurt again. What are we? How do we know what we have when he can't stay healthy on the ice? I mean, it'd be great for him to stay healthy, but then you run into
Yeah.
the problem. Okay, who's going to start? You don't
Yeah.
have that 100% clear cut number one goalie at this
Yeah.
point.
But then, I mean, do you think Jack Campbell has any like? Is he a guy just for the AHL to maybe mentor, Kosa? Is that the reason they signed him, or are they hoping for something more with him?
It might be a mix of both. They're probably hoping maybe he comes into camp in preseason and lights the world on fire. I guess
Yeah.
worst case scenario, he goes to Grand Rapids and, like you said, he mentors Kosa and shows him. Not like Kosa really needs a whole lot of mentoring. The
Oh,
kid's done
sorry.
pretty well down there, but I mean, yeah, I fully expect him to be in Grand Rapids with Kosa for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so crazy how much he's fallen down from the Maple Leafs because he was a really good goalie there. And now he's an AHL guy and borderline, and he had to sign a league minimum to and get bought out first. and then have to sign a league minimum somewhere in the AHL, most likely. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how he comes into camp. And maybe, I mean, it'd be really surprising if he is a factor on this team, but we'll wait and see. That's
Yeah,
something.
I mean, if he does, you run into an even bigger problem. You got four goalies on an NHL roster. One, if not two of them, have to be shipped out, and I don't know how much you're going to get in return. It could end up being a Wallman trade again, future considerations.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
sure.
It's going to be an interesting, that's a big storyline going into camp, that's for sure. All right, let's talk about the division because this Atlantic division is so tough, and you got so many teams that are in that middle part that you're not really sure about, and the Red Wings fall right in that position. Is that where they are, or do you see them being potentially going into that top tier at this point?
At this point, I don't think you're going to see the top three of like Florida, Toronto, and Boston really going anywhere. They might be interchangeable in that top three. Tampa Bay, I mean, yeah, they lost Stamkos, they moved Zergachev, but they're Tampa Bay. They seem to be relevant every year, no matter what happens. So yeah, I think you're going to see the Wings in that 4 to 6 range of the division. I mean, Montreal, yeah, they've added some pieces, but they're still looking a couple years down the road before they're probably a real true threat. Buffalo, they're right, kind of right there with the Wings in my mind with how they've got their youngsters coming up, becoming more prominent in the lineup. And then Ottawa, yeah, I think they're gonna probably bounce back a little bit, but
Yeah.
I just yeah, I don't know about Ottawa to be honest with you. I mean, I could see the division kind of shaping out like it was last year, just the same three at the top, and then I mean, there's not been a whole lot of overhaul in that division this
Mm.
season or off season, so
Yeah, there's not been a lot. I mean, it's just gonna just and every season I say it, it's like this is the year that the Senators, Red Wings, and Sabres are going to make one of them's going to make a move into the playoffs. I mean, Detroit took a big step last season, but again, those bad stretches just killed them, and that's again the two question marks we've already talked about is goaltending and the defense, which we talked about a lot on Grind Line last season, and I don't know if it's been solved yet. So we'll wait and see what happens there. And yeah. All right, moving to the quick fire round, and we'll start with the biggest storyline or question mark. And we probably have already said it many times. What do you got for a storyline question mark?
the back end of the ice, goaltending and defense. What's going to
Yeah.
happen? What does it look like? Who's going to start?
Yeah, there you
I
go. And
mean,
we already with details. Go back to the conversation
yeah.
we just had.
Yep.
All right, one or two breakout stars for the season.
I think Edmondson's gonna. I don't want to say he's gonna have a breakout season in the manner of production point wise. I just think he's gonna become that solid second pair defenseman that could eventually end up pairing up with Mo Sider on the first pairing and create that twin towers effect on the blue line. That's, I mean, you give him a full season, I think he's gonna really shine and he's gonna show Wings fans that the hype and the wait was well worth it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think they could be a good tandem. The thing is I think they need to have more depth behind them before that happens because they just
Right.
you put them together now, you're not. I don't really like the second pairing right
No,
now.
not at all.
So yeah, I think there has to be some stronger pieces later on before that happens. They better off on two separate ones right now.
Yep, yep.
All right, bounce back. Who needs to bounce back from last season?
Well, I don't want to say he had a bad season last year, but I mean, Rasmussen, the extension he's signed and the responsibilities and expectations he's had placed upon him. I mean, you could even look at Joe Veleno.
Mhm.
Veleno's kind of stayed at that steady pace where he's been since he's came to the league. But I think if he's able to stay fully healthy this year, going from 33 to maybe if he can push the 40 point mark this year, and help kill penalties, maybe slide in on that second power play, I think would be a massive help for that middle six of the lineup and hopefully take that third, fourth line role to another level.
Yeah, Rasmussen's an interesting guy. I really like. I don't think he has much of a ceiling as a top six, but definitely a really solid bottom six guy. Like you said, kill penalties, sliding on the power play at times because he's got really his size is really good for. Yeah, I think he's never going to go up to his first round pick where he was selected in the draft ever, because he's now I think settled into what he is, but he could still be a really effective player for the Red Wings. So yeah, I don't know if, like you said, I don't know if he had a bad season, but definitely could be maybe grow into his role a bit more this season, and we'll
Yeah, yep.
be good for this for the team. All right, who or what could be X factor this season for the Red Wings?
Well, I don't want. It's not going to be a massive, shocker or surprise. I'm going with Dylan Larkin.
Yeah,
I mean, he like you said when he was hurt, the team it just seemed like the team was just out of energy. Like you said,
yeah,
Raymond had to carry the team. He drove the bus. I mean,
yeah,
he was all over the ice, at each end of the ice, doing everything, leading. That's why he's got the C on his jersey. He's growing into that
yeah,
role a lot lately. I think if he stays healthy, he's going to be a point per game player this year. I really do, and something like that
yeah.
with him playing with Raymond and DeBrincat, that takes that whole first line to another level.
I love Dylan Larkin. He's just one of those guys that just keeps getting better. And if he can like stay be healthy all season, I could see him pushing 100 points, honestly. He's very underrated centerman. Maybe not everyone thinks of him as a first line center, but I think he is growing closer to that now, especially after last season yeah, I think the team imploded when he was gone for
Yeah,
a
for
bit
sure.
until Raymond kind of just said, "Guys, we need to we need to do something here," and then he continued it when Larkin came back. So yeah, I think he could definitely be an X factor this season. He was an X factor last season, so.
Right.
All right, let's talk about some rookies or prospects. Now, there's not a lot of room on in the lineup for a rookie to make the team, but who do you see surprising and doing that?
Honestly, probably someone, maybe Nate Danielson, maybe Marco Casper. Casper didn't have the greatest start last year with the Grand Rapids, but he got himself back and going after getting hurt within his first game with the Wings 2 years ago. I think if I mean him or Danielson would be the ones that have the biggest shot. Maybe someone like Albert Johansson if they decide they want to go off the beaten path a little bit with the defense. But like you said, there really isn't a whole lot of room for a prospect or rookie to make the team right out of camp unless injuries start popping up right at the beginning of the year. So
I mean, Carter Mazer could potentially be. I think he could be a good third, fourth line option. But again, there's not a lot of space, and you want these guys playing limited minutes down there.
right,
I mean, better off playing big minutes in Grand Rapids at this point. And Danielson, I've said many times, I think he could start in the NHL as a third or fourth line guy because he's just so good defensively already. But again, is that the best for his development? It's always looking at that, and I think Danielson's ready to make that jump, and he had a really good camp last season. But we'll see how that goes. But there's just not a lot of
yeah,
right.
no,
So
I mean we all know how Eiserman is. He likes to let those kids really develop and season themselves, and whether it's Grand Rapids or wherever else, he wants them. If he doesn't feel they're ready, they aren't playing. So
yeah, well, we
I
saw that
mean,
with Edmondson many times.
yep, exactly, yep.
All right, outside of that, the Red Wings have a lot of exciting prospects throughout the everywhere. Who should everyone be watching this season?
I think they need to be watching Shea William,
Hmm.
honestly. His first year in Grand Rapids after coming in after his college season ended. He doesn't have the allure and all the hype behind him like his brother did after getting
Yeah.
drafted this year, but I think his game should translate well to Grand Rapids and just he could end up being a top. I mean, he'll make the lineup here, I think, in a few years, and he should
Mhm.
be adding a lot to that defensive unit by the time someone like Sherrod or Paul or Petrie, any of those guys are gone. I mean, between him and Johansson, they've got options there if they go down the right path development wise. So I think he's definitely someone in Grand Rapids this year to watch.
Yeah, I've loved him since he was drafted too. He's not definitely not the same guy as Zeev at all. But he definitely has upside as an NHL defenseman. So I like that. Axel Sandin Pellikka, I think everyone should, of course, should be watching this guy. He's another great
Right.
offensive defenseman and a Quinn Hughes type. Comparing to Quinn Hughes. I mean, Hughes is probably a generational talent at this point. But
Yeah. Yep.
he's got a similar style. But yeah, I really love him, so definitely watch him. There's so many guys. Just read Devin's top 25 prospects list, and there's all your guys you should be watching. So there you go.
Yep.
All right. To our last couple questions here. Who do you see leading the team in scoring on forwards and defense here this season? Some obvious
Forward.
answers.
Right. Forward wise, I think Larkin's gonna. I honestly, I'm kind of with you. I think if he all things line up and fire on the right cylinders, he could be a 90 to 100 point player. I think with again another year of him and DeBrincat together with Raymond, hopefully, fingers crossed,
Hmm.
that deal gets done. But with them together, I think a healthy season between the three of them, he's got every possibility to reach that 90 to 100 point mark. So, and then on defense, I'm gonna go. He ain't got a whole lot of options scoring wise from the back end, but I think Sider's gonna break the double digit goal mark. I think he's gonna take that next step. I mean, he's progressed his offensive game each year. It seems like, and he's becoming more comfortable back there. I think he's gonna prove whatever deal they get done with him that he was worth it.
Yeah. I think those two deals are going to get done within the next week or so. I mean, it can't go longer than. I mean, I hope it doesn't go into training camp and it hangs over because I hate it when players can't start training camp and these contracts are hanging over their heads. So hopefully both get done. I mean, I mean they will get done. I mean, obviously, but it's just hopefully
The
it's
timing's what matters.
yeah, yeah. All right, last question, a bold prediction, a hot take for this season.
Or go two. I'm gonna go Lucas Raymond breaks the 40 goal mark on that top line with Larkin and DeBrincat, and then they find their way into the playoffs finally, and then that drought gets some playoff hockey in Little Caesars Arena finally. So I think things are gonna work. I think Lalonde's starting to get the players, and Eiserman's they're starting to click together, and I just think they're gonna figure it out this year. We were all saying it last year too, but sooner or later it's got to be the year. So hopefully
Yeah.
it's this one. That's what I'm gonna go with. So
Well, I mean, like I say, they were a point. I mean, they just needed an OTL. I mean, at any point of the season, they just needed one more point
yeah,
to make it past the Capitals. And that's just, I mean, they were so close. And they even won their last game and didn't matter. But
yeah,
yeah, we'll see if they could get a bit of a cushion on that spot by the end of the season. Because I think they got the forward group to do it, like we said. It's just a question mark of can the defense and goaltending hold up and not have the Red Wings have to win game 6-5 because they had to do that way too many times last season and they're just not sustainable, right? So
right. Well, and that was the big thing going into the offseason that they were, we got to get the defense shored up. We got to do this. And like you said, the biggest addition they made was Gustafson. And let's just hope Jeff Petrie or Sherratt or maybe Hall ends up. I mean, like you said, it's a big question mark going into the season again. I mean, Petrie looked better when he was paired with Edmondson for the time they were together at the end of the year. But again, he didn't have a season you were hoping for. So it's tough area for the Wings right now. So
yeah. Just one last question. Do you see defense someone getting added? I mean, trade wise, before the beginning of the season, or is this the group that Eisman's going to run with to start?
I think it's going to be the group he goes with. I think this late in the game, unless something miraculous, we all know he keeps everything very tight to the
Yeah.
vest. So I mean, he could pull something off tomorrow. Who knows? But it'd be nice if he did. But I don't. I think this is what they're going to go into camp with, and they said maybe you get someone like Johansson that impresses and uh, kind of pushes for a spot, but I think that's about what they're going to go with heading into the year.
Yeah. I think so too. I mean, there was the rumors of Jacob Truba, but of course Truba said no, he's not going anywhere. So that was shot down pretty quick. I don't know who else they could acquire really at this point. I mean, seems like a lot of teams don't have. I mean, and if they are, the prices are ridiculous of what they want. So I mean, we'll wait. I mean, the Calgary Flames seem to be they want to sell off everyone. So I mean, maybe a Mackenzie Weegar. I don't know. Maybe a guy like that. I mean, Rasmus Anderson would be interesting. Um,
Yeah, there's
there's some targets out there, but I just don't know if that's what's going to happen now. I think it's going to be later on. Those guys are going to move. But we'll wait. We'll wait and see how this all pans out. But thanks, Jordan, for coming on and talking the Red Wings. It's got another exciting season, I think, even though I mean the playoffs aren't a guarantee, but it's going to be fun. So make sure to check out everything at thehockeywriters.com with the Red Wings coverage we are going to have throughout the season and going into training camp and throughout training camp in the preseason. But yeah, check out the Substack as well. But until our next preview, we'll see you next time.